Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker of the General Assembly, Mr. Premier, British Columbia, Leader of the Opposition, Leader of the Third Party, and all honorable members. It is a tremendous personal and professional pleasure to be given this high honor of this invitation. It is always a high honor to be in this province and also on the traditional territories of the Esquimalt and the Songhees First Nations. I would like to acknowledge my wife's present, Trudy, here today. We are celebrating August 28th, 1972 was the day we started our honeymoon in Victoria, British Columbia. So I can tell you, so we attribute a significant part of our marital success to British Columbia. I just want you to know that. I want to thank you for allowing my son Connor to start the race to Alaska last summer from Victoria Harbor, and he has yet to win Swiftsure, but he's not going to give up trying. So I want to thank you for allowing our family to enjoy your beautiful province. And now Victoria is where I've been granted this tremendous privilege to walk through the Golden Gates. When other Washington governors have been given this chance, I knew they felt the same excitement that I do of this honor to see another historic legislative body in action. And they recognized what I think we all recognize if we take a moment to think about it, what an opportunity it is to observe the traditions of democracy that have shined so brightly through generations in these halls and in my legislative chamber as well. I do believe if everyone had a chance to witness the work you do and the work my legislature does, they would have a greater respect for the process of democracy, and that would be a good thing. And it's important to say that, I think, right now, because with everything happening in our White House in Washington, D.C., I know that many nations have questioned our nation's leadership on some very important issues and have questioned whether my nation will remain a shining city on the hill that we've always thought of our nation as providing leadership for the world. I think people have questioned whether we will continue our long tradition of being a beacon of hope for those in homelands around the world. They've questioned whether we will remain a country of openness and opportunity, of inclusion and innovation, of equality and environmental stewardship. Today, let me say this, that our nation and my state will never surrender the principles that gave us what we are today, which is the state of Washington. So we have a long tradition of democracy, but we have so much to share. You might cheer for the Whitecaps, while we cheer for the Sounders. You might sing "O Canada," while we serenade the land of the free and home of the brave. But we have so many numerous shared interests, and more importantly, I think, shared values that cross this imaginary border. I was just talking about the Premier. This is an imaginary line that we need to get over, so to speak, because we have great work to do together. I want to pause just a moment to thank you for investing in the Capital Regional District's wastewater treatment project. And in doing so, you're helping water quality in the Salish Sea. Thank you for what you've done. I saw the construction coming in. We appreciate it. Thank you for what you're doing there. Every time I visit Vancouver, BC, I think that it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And this is an opinion I share with folks when we talk about it, because frankly, you've done some things in your planning process and some of your transportation process that really has created some beautiful metropolitan areas in your state, in your province, and there's things that we need to look at how you've accomplished that, frankly. I was looking at some of the things you've done in Vancouver, BC the other day, thinking maybe we can share some of those ideas on my side of the border. On both sides of our border, we can step outside and we can look around. whether the weather cooperates or not, and marvel at the natural beauty that surrounds us. That breathtaking scenery plays a major role in our tourism and outdoor recreation industries. And I can tell you that your Premier and myself as Governor share the view that each province and state are the most beautiful places in our respective nations. I can tell you that. And it's part what draws our talent to our province and our state. And I think this is something that is forgotten all too often. People ask why my state has been so successful in the high-tech industry, in all the innovative industries that surround that. And I'll answer, which is true, which is it's one of the best places to recruit talent in the world today because it is such a beautiful place to live. And when we want to recruit someone from Boston or Los Angeles in high tech, we love the fact that they love living in Washington State. I know the same is true in British Columbia. So I look at environmental stewardship as an economic asset and an economic growth strategy. And we intend to follow that in my state. So I know that you share that view here in British Columbia. We share the commitment to fostering innovation. It's what we do in my state. We live and breathe innovation. It's in our bones. We invent, we create, we build. We invented the first commercially successful jet airliner. We do some pretty good software. We even invented the $4 cup of coffee in the state of Washington. 5 in Canada, I hear that. But we want to keep this going, and there's things we can work on together to keep this innovation tradition going on both sides of this border. That's why I'm so happy about the creation of the Cascadia Innovation Corridor. This special partnership is allowing us to move forward on a number of shared visions, including in the technology, healthcare, and transportation sectors. We share a memorandum of understanding between the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle and the BC Cancer Agency to undertake mutual efforts in the fight against cancer. On transportation, we began a feasibility study for a new ultra-high-speed rail line from Portland to Seattle to Vancouver, BC, that could promote economic integration, enable affordable housing, help clean our air, and reduce traffic. Now, the initial ridership and revenue numbers from the study should be coming back in a few weeks. And I'm excited about the prospect of a train that can reduce the travel time from Seattle to Vancouver, BC, from 3 hours to less than 1. We're good enough to do this. It is time for us to start serious efforts in doing this, not just from the economic reasons, but for someday having essentially a Subway series for NHL franchises. We can have a great project here. I'm excited about the prospect of a new seaplane service between South Lake Union in Seattle and Cole Harbour in Vancouver. Premier Horgan and I agree that this could be a game changer in cross-border collaboration and improved connectivity. We've asked the Prime Minister for his assistance in getting it across the finish line. We just heard some good news about this today, and I look forward to that service. Now, in addition to sharing an innovative spirit, my state and this province share the understanding that society is stronger when we build it on the basis of inclusion rather than exclusion. And I'm proud that we were one of the several states to join the lawsuit to protect undocumented immigrants brought to the United States as children. They are not a danger, they are dreamers. And I'm proud that Washington State It's interesting that dreams are appreciated on both sides of this border, actually. I'm proud that our state actually led the charge against the president's illegal and immoral ban on immigrants and refugees from a number of Muslim-majority countries. This ban was perplexing, given that our country is rooted in the very principles of liberty and opportunity, and it certainly was not consistent with the values of my state. Let me be clear. No matter your country of origin, your religious beliefs, or your immigration status, we treat everyone in Washington State with dignity and respect. Now, my state and this province also share many challenges: affordable housing and homelessness, the opioid epidemic, income inequality, and certainly climate change. Today, I'm here in the hopes that together we will usher in a new era, one that moves past polluting fossil fuels and embraces a clean energy future. There is no doubt in my mind that clean energy technologies open the door to economic prosperity, but they are also key to our strategy not just to mitigate, but to defeat climate change. And we must be victorious in the fight against climate change, because without victory, there is no survival. There is no plan B. This is one of the greatest challenges of our time. It is what I suggest legislators on both sides of this border, if we are remembered for anything 100 years from now, this is what we will be judged on. And it is time for us to rise to that challenge. It poses an existential threat to your province, and it poses an existential threat to my state. I know we all enjoy quoting Winston Churchill, and for so many attributes of courage, optimism, and his great humility. And he once wrote, "What is the use of living if it be not to strive for noble causes, to make this muddled world a better place for those who will live in after we are gone?" And as my family grows with more and more beautiful grandchildren, and I have declared them by executive order the most beautiful grandchildren in the state of Washington, you should know that. The older I get, the more I think about these terms, what it's going to mean to live in our Pacific Northwest for my grandkids and yours. I just don't want my grandkids having to experience routinely deadly forest fires, flooding, where that becomes the norm rather than the exception, a world without salmon in its rivers or iconic orcas in the Sailor Sea. And that is a future that is a real possibility if we are not successful in our mutual efforts. My state is fortunate to have distinguished leaders to our north who recognize the importance of this problem. Our hats are off to British Columbia for your leadership in this regard. You are helping lead the world in this regard. From the South, I just want to tell you, you're doing some great work here, and I personally appreciate it on behalf of my state and my grandchildren. And I want you to know we intend to join you in every single effort to succeed in this mutual endeavor. Earlier this month, just last week, I went to Bonn to reassure global leaders of our country's commitment to acting on climate change and ocean acidification. Their environmental dignitaries from Canada and Mexico joined forces with the United States Climate Alliance. This alliance consists of 15 states, and it created the North American Climate Leadership Dialogue. The dialogue will address topics such as zero-emission vehicles, clean power, and carbon pricing. It is not the only cross-border collaboration on climate. We have the West Coast Electric Highway, a robust system of electric vehicle charging stations spanning from BC to BC, British Columbia to Baja California. We also have the Pacific Coast Collaborative, a group of West Coast states and British Columbia dedicated to forming a united direction for Pacific North America, including on climate change. And I do think it's important to note, given the language coming out of the White House, that this coalition that I've helped form represents 40% of the United States economy. It is not a small effort. If we were a separate nation, and I'm not suggesting that at the moment, if we were a separate nation, this group would be the third largest economy in the world today. We went to Bonn to let the world know we're still in, and we are in big time in Washington State. So I want to assure you, and we should be undaunted in this regard. I want to assure this assembly that no matter who is in the White House, it won't affect Washington State's relationship with Canada or British Columbia. It cannot stop us from moving forward on climate change. It cannot stop us from establishing global and subnational coalitions. It cannot stop individual states from capping carbon. It cannot stop our businesses from inventing new and creative solutions. And I've seen the fruit of this work already. When I was in Bonn, it's interesting, I walked in, there was big tents here where the meeting was, and I walked in and I passed these shiny BMW electric cars that were parked outside, and I was kind of excited because I realized that the carbon fiber that forms the lightweight body of these cars is made where? It's made in Moses Lake, Washington. We're growing jobs like the bushelful in this, by the bushelful in this effort. And my hope, we're going to continue to support these types of innovations and forge ahead. And I know British Columbia is going to continue to be a great leader in this journey. Now, to illustrate our bond, I do want to note the Peace Arch. Nearly a century it stood on the border. We know it came, I'm told, I hope this is accurate, that Sam Hill, an American, originally had this idea to commemorate not war victories, but this great relationship. And he got his wish, a 67-foot tall monument, which reads, as you know, may these gates never be closed. That is the special relationship between our two communities. It means we are stronger when we collaborate, that we are stronger when we celebrate this amazing, rich history that we share, that we are stronger when we see ourselves as one Pacific Northwest region and share an optimism about our future. And as that strength grows, may we never lose sight of who we are or the values that we hold dear. We're Washingtonians and British Columbians. We're friends and partners today and always. Thank you for this great privilege. Good luck.